You just memorize, okay? And then we will go
Yes,
to
sir.
the next sections.
Okay, sir. So, last class we saw doctrine of marshalling.
Huh.
So first we saw from where it came. So it was came after one Lord Marshall, who gave this the theory about this particular thing. So in this case, I'll just explain with example what you said in the last
Mm,
class.
mm,
So basically, in this marshalling, what happens is, for example, a owner is transferring his property to two different mortgage, two different person, the same property. And what happens prior to the release of the mortgage of party number one? For example, A will mortgage his property to B, and before the time lapse, like when before time of B will finish, he will mortgage the same property to C. So in this case, the C has a right to practice this doctrine of marshalling against B, saying that when your tenure is getting over, you please leave my part of the property which is given in possession to me, and rest of the property you can give back to the real mortgager, and you can release the amount.
very good, good. But Mansi, in
Yes,
the
sir.
exam, you don't mention Chief Justice Marshall of America.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Okay,
sir.
don't write that one. Okay, so only to your young mind, you can catch up so many things. So I just want you to know that there was a great judge in this in America who was very stronger, who never cared for politicians.
Yes, sir.
Why I told you is today the judges are not doing their duty here. Some judge have been killed. Some judge is having the fear, so they are not giving judgment. But
Yes, sir.
American judges, they never care for their life. They're ready to sacrifice themselves. So they went against the politicians.
Yes, sir.
So please read one incident of Justice Loya murder case. Uh,
Justice.
Justice Loya, you are young. You have to catch up. You have to
Yes,
tell
sir.
me. Okay. Hmm?
Yes, sir.
Justice Loya murder case. Why the judge was killed, how he was killed, and where he was dumped. His body was dumped. It was so painful in this democracy. So many things are happening, ma. Okay. Yeah. So
Yes,
don't
sir.
write him. You just simply write what is marshalling.
Okay.
Marshalling is the right available to a subsequent mortgagee against the prior mortgagee. Okay, so according to this right, the subsequent mortgagee can tell the prior mortgagee not to touch, not to sell that property, exclude the property which is mortgaged to the subsequent mortgagee, and to sell off the remaining properties so that the prior mortgagee can collect back all his money. So this right is called right of marshalling. Okay, so there are two exceptions. That is number one, exception number one, contract to the contrary. If there is a agreement or a contract between the mortgager and the subsequent mortgagee, when the mortgager brings the matter or the fact of the first mortgage to the knowledge of the subsequent mortgagee, he can tell, say, Mr. Subsequent Mortgagee, you should not exercise the right of marshalling. Okay? Then if the subsequent mortgagee agrees, that's fine. Then he loses the right of marshalling. Okay? This is one exception. Second one, failure to satisfy the prior mortgage debt. I told you the first mortgagee, he is first in time. He has the right to sell off all the property. he must collect all the money required for his loan. And sometimes, if he can't, if he don't want to sell the property belonging, mortgage it to the subsequent mortgagee, but when he sells off the other properties, but he could not get back the mortgage money, then the law says, hey, prior mortgagee, you have the right even to sell off that property which is in the possession of the subsequent mortgagee. Sell it off because you have the priority in collecting back your complete mortgage money. Okay, so write this much about marshalling. Okay, yeah, Levin.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Levin. Can you explain section 82, Levin?
Yes, sir.
You are on mute, Levin.
Yeah. Actually, I was recalling the thing. So, in the last class, sir taught me about this concept, and it really regards to the concept where there are more than two or more persons involved in a particular property. For example, there is a plot or any land of 20 acres, and it is mortgaged. So, and the person to whom that land is belongs has four sons. Yeah, this is the illustration, Mansi. I think you can see. So you can easily understand by this thing. Like initially, as it was the father, and he has four sons, and they were having 20 acres of land. Then the father mortgages the land in the year 2001 for 5 years for rupees 5 lakhs rupees to improve the land. Later on, in the year 2003, the father raised another mortgage of rupees 5 lakhs for another 5 years for his medical expenses. So basically, this medical expenses were the second mortgage amount was raised by his sons for their father's treatment and all. So what happens in the year 2004? The father dies. Later, the entire 20 acres of land was equally divided to all of the four sons. So when the time came to pay the debt amount to the mortgagee, so they all the four sons were equally liable to contribute, because the piece of land, which was 20 acres in area, was equally divided among them, all four of them. So by that, as the amount was 5 lakh rupees, so each one of son was bound to pay 1.25 lakhs. That is 5 lakhs divided by 4. And secondly, what happens? Uh, it is not only specifically bound to this concept. Like everybody is equally bound to pay the equal amount. In this situation, why it happened? Because the land was equally divided among all. So it completely depends and varies from circumstances in every case. That it depends on the proportion of the land. For example, there is 20 acres of land, and one first son has got 10 acres of land, and rest of the half of the land, like another 10 acres of land, is equally divided among rest of the three sons. So the it depends upon the proportion of the land, like how much area you own, you have the possession of, you are accordingly bound to pay such amount of land, debt amount.
Very good, very good, very good, Levin. So what is contribution? Contribution means when a property is having different loans and the property has been shared by different people as owners, then according to their respective shares, they have to contribute. They have to contribute in clearing the mortgage money or the loan. So this kind of this is called contribution under section 82. Okay. Yeah. Once again, here also there are exceptions. So exception number 1, contract to the contrary. See, when the persons who became the owners of such property, when they enter into an agreement saying, no, we need not follow section 82, we need not contribute, okay? For example, I will contribute on my own. I don't want you to contribute. Then, if all of them agree, according to that agreement or according to that contract, the contribution can be varied or it can be changed. Okay? Then there is no necessity of contribution. And then second exception is when all the shareholders or the owners of the properties have the duty to contribute, and one of the person, he fails to contribute, or one of the person is compelled to take all the responsibilities, then he shall not be compelled to contribute for the subsequent loans, subsequent debts. Okay? So, the one person who fails to contribute to the one of the loan do not have the right to compel the other person to contribute into the clearance of the loans. Okay? So, this is section 82, contribution. Now we will go ahead. You will get one more section that's important. Deposit in court. They will simply ask you, deposit in court. That is section 83. I have taught you section 58. Section 58 gives, section 58A gives the definition of mortgage. And section 58B commences the kinds of mortgages. B, C, D, E, F, G. There are 6 kinds of mortgages. Okay. Then section 60 to 66 explains about the rights and liabilities of the mortgagor. There I have explained you section 60, right of redemption. So, when they ask you this word, short notes, deposit in court, remember how you have to win the hearts of the valuers is, first you give the definition of mortgage under section 58A. You have to write 58A so that the valuer will be very happy that you have even written the subsection. Okay? You have to attract them. There are different minds of valuers, and you know that you have some of them are very sadistic valuers. Some of them actually reads all the words, all the sentences written by the students. So you must be in a position to attract them. Okay, so when they ask you this word, deposit in court, explain, mortgage, section 58A, definition. Come on, you write in your own words, the mortgage. So what is there in the mortgage? There is a mortgager, there is a mortgagee, there is an immovable property, there is a loan, the present loan or the past loan or the future loan. There is a period, okay? There is a possession, there is the registration or no registration, there is writing or no writing, okay? There is possession or no possession. So all these comes together. Come on, write one beautiful para with all these elements. Then you mention section 60. What is section 60? Right of redemption. That means the mortgagor is having the right of redemption. That means the mortgagor has received loan from the mortgagee for a certain number of years, and the mortgager is having the duty to give back the money and to take back his property. So this is called as right of redemption. That means the mortgager is having the right to put an end to the transaction of mortgage. Now the question is, when he can exercise the right of redemption? Generally, mortgages are for specified period. Generally, I'm using the word. So when any mortgage is for a specified period, the period must be completed. The period must comes to an end. When the period completes, the mortgager has the duty. What is that? He has to prepare a notice in writing. You know, you are going to be the lawyers. You are going to be the judges. How you have to prepare the notice? See, you have to have 1 minute. I'll take some sip of water. You have to prepare a notice, and in the notice, the first part is from the mortgager. Below that, to the mortgagee. What is his address? You have to mention. And to the right side of the paper, there has to be a date and there has to be a place. And below that, you have to start, respected sir, like that, okay? You have to mention, I, the mortgager, wants to bring to your kind knowledge the expiration of the mortgage transaction entered between you and me, and the last day of the mortgage falls on this day. So, I am hereby ready with all my money, okay? And I want to give it to you. I want to deliver the mortgage money. So kindly tell where and how I have to give you the money. And I want to put an end to this transaction. A reasonable period of notice must be given by the mortgager to the mortgagee. It should be in writing. It should not be, it should not be in oral form. No, law wants the proof. When such a notice has been given, and in the notice, consider a reasonable time has been given. It may be 15 days or 21 days or 1 month or 1.5 months. It depends. So, when such a notice has been served on the mortgagee by the mortgager, he must keep the proof of service of notice. Then comes this section 83, deposit in court. What it says, when the mortgager has given the notice to put an end to the transaction, and the mortgagee is not responding, he don't want to give up the property, he want to continue with the property, so he refuses to accept the money, he refuses to give up the mortgage, whatever may be the reason. when there is rejection, when there is no reply to the notice of the mortgager, then the law says, mortgager, you have done your duty of giving the notice. When there is no reply, you have the right to come to the jurisdictional civil court. You file a petition before the civil court. You bring the matter to the knowledge of the court. All the details of the mortgage and all the details of the mortgage money. You explain to the court. In every court, there is an office called administrative office. You cannot simply go and submit in front of a judge. There is an office. Every court, there are wonderful persons with lot of knowledge. So first you have to convince those administrative staff. What kind of case is this? What kind of right you are losing? When you explain to them, then those officers of the civil court, they will accept your petition, and they are going to give you a number for that petition. It is called OS number. They may ask you, in some exam they may ask you, what is OS number? OS means original suit number. So when the court accepts that document, it registers the case and it gives a number to that one. It gives an acknowledgement to the lawyer, and then it will give an information. It calls upon the summons to the opposite party. So it's a civil case. We call them as plaintiff. The mortgager is the plaintiff and the mortgagee is the defendant. Right? Then, when the mortgagee is served with the summons, he has to receive the summons, and then he has to come to the court of law on the specified date so that the trial can be conducted. Now here, let us understand the word mortgage money. What is this amount? This amount means the principal loan received by the mortgager from the mortgagee. It may be 50,000 or 50 lakhs or 5 crores, it depends. So the amount of money that has been paid by the mortgagee to the mortgager must be ready. Plus any kind of lawful expenses incurred by the mortgagee, and that matter has been already brought to the knowledge of the mortgager. All such amounts shall be deposited in the court of law along with the original or the principal amount of loan. For example, if the mortgagee has spent reasonable repair in protection of the property, in guarding the property, in making it as a strong property in order to protect it from becoming a weak security or an insufficient security, or he has paid the penalty to the municipality, or he has paid the tax to the municipality, or he has paid the tax to any different governments, all such amounts has to have the proof of documents. And when the mortgage period is over, the mortgager has to calculate all this amount of money and he has to deposit it in the court of law. Okay? So in the exam, you have to write all these things. You have to write at least one illustration. See, here I'm just giving you this illustration. One of you can read it. Come on. Read it and tell me the gist of this. One of you, Lavin or Mansi? One of you. Anyone?
Read, Mansi.
Illustration, okay.
Huh.
A is the absolute owner of the house property, mortgaged it for 5 years for rupees 5 lakh on January 1st, 2005. B took possession. In the year 2006, he spent rupees 20,000. So it will be 20,000 only. No?
Yeah, 20,000.
Yeah. 20,000 for the payment of arrears of tax to the government. The mortgage period came to an end on 1st of January 2010. A gave notice to B about the completion of mortgage transaction and desire to take back the property. Expressed the readiness to pay the mortgage money. After the receival of notice, B has not responded. Then A filed the petition before jurisdictional civil court and deposited the total amount of rupees 5 lakh and 20,000 in the court. Later, the court gave notice to B and ordered to deliver the vacant possession of the property to A and delivered the mortgage and delivered the complete mortgage money to B.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Lavin, you just explain what you have understood by this.
So the scene is exactly not, but I'll try.
You try. So there is one owner, Mr. A. He has mortgaged it for 5 years on the first date of January 2005. And that Mr. Mortgagee, Mr. B, he received a notice from the government saying, there is a tax arrear, you have to pay, it is 20,000 rupees. If you don't pay within the next 15 days, we will take action against the property. So Mr. B, the mortgagee, brings this matter to the knowledge of Mr. A, saying, Mr. A, we have received a notice from the government that you owe 20,000 rupees arrears to the government, so kindly you pay from your pocket. But Mr. A said, no, I don't have that money. So Mr. B, now you please pay from your pocket, then keep the receipt with you, and then after the completion of the mortgage money, I'm going to reimburse you. So Mr. B has brought the matter to the knowledge of Mr. A. And as a result, Mr. B has paid from his pocket. Consider the entire mortgage period is over. Now, how much money that Mr. A has to deposit in the court of law? How much money? Mr. A has to deposit the original 5 lakhs of rupees plus 20,000 rupees that has been paid by the mortgagee towards the government. So these two amounts of money together must be deposited in the court of law. So these two amounts is called as the mortgage money. What happens then? Mr. A has deposited rupees 5,20,000 in the court of law after serving of notice to Mr. B, and Mr. B either has not replied or he refused to vacate, something like that. So Mr. A came to the court of law, submitted the petition, registered the case, and deposited 5,20,000 rupees. Then the court registered it, gave a number to that case, and served the summons to the mortgagee, Mr. B. You know, summons you will learn in your CRPC and also in CPC. Okay? So in both these subjects, you are going to learn the details of summons. Okay, now, need not about the details. So, court has served the summons to Mr. B, and Mr. B received the summons, and he appeared before the court of law on the specified date, day, and time. When Mr. B has presented before the court, the court has conducted, you know, there will be two lawyers. Lawyer on the side of the mortgager and also on the side of the mortgagee. Then both of them submitted their respective deeds, documents, claims, counterclaims, objections, so many things. Civil cases, these kinds of civil cases, you know, it will not run for a long time. Generally, they will try to clear. So consider in a matter of 1 year, they have cleared. The trial was conducted, and then the court has ordered Mr. B. Mr. B, what is your total amount of claim? Is it 5,20,000? Mr. B says, yes, sir, it's 5,20,000. Okay. You can collect this amount of money, but first you have to obey the court's order. What you have to do is, Mr. B and Mr. A, please, both of you, go to the office of the sub-registrar and submit a petition there. After submitting the petition, pay the governmental fees there and secure the non-registration. That means you put an end to the registration of the mortgage property, and the sub-registrar is going to give you a clearance certificate, clearance of the mortgage deed, and you bring that certificate and submit to the court. And then when they go to the office of the sub-registrar, file the petition, pay the fees there, and the sub-registrar may take 1 or 2 or 3 days, depending on the circumstances, and then he will clear, he will give a certificate that this mortgage is no more in existence, it has come to an end. And then the certificate will be brought and presented before the court of law. When such a document is presented, the court will order the mortgagee to give peaceful, vacant, free possession of the property and the documents in the possession of the mortgagee to the mortgager. When such a vacant possession has been given to the mortgager, Only afterwards the court will call upon the mortgagee. Have you submitted? Have you given? Hi, Mr. Mortgager, have you accepted the possession? And the mortgager must say, yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor, I have accepted the possession from the mortgagee. Then the court is going to release the complete mortgage money to the mortgagee. So this much of analysis you have to write for short notes called deposit in court of law. Okay? Hope you understood now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now hope you can analyze next section. Once again, they will ask you for short notes. Okay. Section 84. Yeah. One of you read, please. One of you read.
Yes, sir.
When the mortgager or such other person as aforesaid has tendered or deposited in court under section 83 the amount remaining due on the mortgage, interest on the principal money shall cease from the date of the tender, or in the case of a deposit where no previous tender of such amount has been made. As soon as the mortgager or such other person as aforesaid has done all that has to be done by him to enable the mortgagee to take such amount out of court, and the notice required by section 83 has been served on the mortgagee.
Now, what you have understood by this?
Sir, as the requirements needfuls are to be, has been completed as per the section 83. After that, it's implied like everything is done and dusted. So rest, everything cease to exist. Like from the date it has been done. So no further deposits and all. It's completely cleared and all.
Okay. Okay, Levin. Let us understand. Okay. See, if they ask you this word, section 84, cessation of interest. They are very, very tricky people, the valuers, the examiners. They simply ask you this section. What is, they simply ask you this one, cessation of interest. What all I have explained today, section 58, section 60, section 83, all the three must be written. Then you have to explain section 84 together. If you only explain section 84, it will not fetch you the marks. Okay? Now what is this topic? Cessation of interest. What is this? In simple words, stopping off the growth of interest. All of you know the banks. The banks give loan to the other persons by keeping the original documents of immovable properties. And the banks have their own loan percentage of interest, annual interest. If you take 1 lakh rupees, the bank may charge 9% or 10% or 11% or 12%, depends. It depends on the bank policy. The growing of interest commences from the date of delivery of the loan to the mortgager. The interest rate, it grows as the day passes, as 1 day, 2 day, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, like that it passes. Yes, the interest will keep on rising, 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 rising. How long the interest grows on the mortgage money. How long? This is the meaning of section 84. That means stopping off the growth of interest on the mortgage money. There are two circumstances here. In these two circumstances, the growth of interest will stop. See, in this, I told you to read. You have read, okay, but you could not get the inner details. What it says. Let us take one simple example for one circumstance. Consider Mr. A has received a loan for 5 years, 5 lakhs of rupees from Mr. B. And the last day of the mortgage was 31st December. The date expired. Immediately, Mr. A has prepared a notice, and in the notice he has mentioned all the details and send it by registered post to the mortgagee. And in that he has mentioned, sir, I am ready with the checkbook or the cash. I am ready with the cash. I am ready with the check. In whichever manner you want to accept, please. And up to that date of service of notice by the mortgager to the mortgagee, and the readiness to give or to deliver the complete mortgage money to the mortgagee. Until that date, the interest will keep on rising. When such a notice is received by the mortgagee, whether he may accept it or he may not accept it, when there is a proof of acceptance of the notice and the readiness of the payment of money to the mortgagee by the mortgager, according to section 84, immediately on that day, the rising of mortgage stops. The rising of interest on the mortgage money stops. This is the first point. Okay, so this is the first circumstance where the rising of interest is going to stop. Second circumstance. Consider the mortgager, he wants to put an end to the mortgage, but he has not given the notice to the mortgagee. And the mortgager, after the expiry of the mortgage period, he comes directly to the court of law. He comes directly to the court of law. And he has submitted to the court, Your Honor, I want to put an end to this transaction. So I want, it must happen through the court of law. That's why I am here. So kindly help me in this regard. Kindly get me my property back. I'm ready with complete amount of money. Consider the court has accepted his plea, has accepted his petition, and then the court has given the summons to the opposite party. He has given the summons, and the summons was served to the mortgagee. He comes to the court of law, and the trial commences. And in that trial, the court asks him, what is the amount of money that is due to you, Mr. Mortgagee? He may tell one figure. For that, he will be having justifications. Okay? And the court will ask the mortgager, is it true? Are you supposed to make more money deposit here? They will settle the matter. When that amount is settled by both the parties, when they will come to a particular figure, and that amount of money shall be deposited in the court of law. When such a money has been deposited, when such a money, there is no dispute between the parties, and the court orders the mortgagee to go to the office of the sub-registrar, cancel the registration of that mortgage transaction, and to come back to the court and submit to the court the certificate from the sub-registrar. And then up to that period of time, the interest on the mortgage money which was rising up to that date, it will stop. Okay? So, and the court will calculate all the amount of interest up to that date. Okay? It will calculate, it will add, and along to that original mortgage money and other expenses, this interest will be added. So these are the two circumstances where the cessation of interest takes place. Yeah. Hope you got it. Come on, tell me, can you explain?
Sir, I can't explain. I'm little like.
Okay. Tell me, no problem. बोलते जाओ, कोई बात नहीं है, बोलते जाओ.
Sir, I understood that part only, which Lavin said that, when entire procedure is done from mortgage's side. So, then in this case, like this section 84, what it says that the amount, whatever it is, it will go back to the mortgagee and the property will come back to the mortgager. Is it like that? I'm very confused with this. I'm actually not getting.
Lavin, come on, Lavin, you explain.
The same issue, like as it's being very technical, so it's very complicated concept, I feel. So because of that, we're getting so much confused.
As
soon as the mortgager or such other person.
See, the bank gives the loan. Will they give loan freely?
No, sir.
No, sir. They will ask for mortgaging.
No, they will charge interest, is it not?
Yes, sir.
So if you take 1 lakh,
security.
Yeah, if you take 1 lakh, some banks may charge 10% of interest or 11% of interest. Right? So, if it is 1 year of mortgage, okay, so that percent will grow. Second year it will grow further. Third year it will grow further. Fourth year it will grow further. Like that it will keep on growing. The growth of interest will stop in this section. There are two circumstances where the interest growth is going to stop. That's all you have to understand in this section. Okay, the original amount has to be paid. The expenses has to be paid. Along with that, the interest has to be paid. How long the interest will keep on growing? How long? So there are two circumstances. First one, after the completion of the mortgage period, the mortgager collects all the money, readies the money, and gives the notice to the mortgagee saying, my dear, please tell me the place when, where I can come and deliver. This is the mortgage amount of money. Everything I am ready. Okay, I am ready to pay all your expenses. Then, when he serves the notice, when he shows the readiness to pay the mortgage money, on that day, the growth of interest will comes to an end. Okay? You are going to understand only one point here, the growing of interest on the mortgage loan. Okay?
Stops there, sir.
Okay, so when he takes the effort, when he gives the notice, when he goes to the house and show that I'm ready with all the money, and when on that day, the growth of interest will stop. Second point. Without giving any notice to the mortgagee, without showing any readiness to the mortgagee, the mortgager will directly file the case before the court of law. When he filed the case before the court of law, the court will take 1 month or 2 months to serve the summons to the mortgagee, and the mortgagee will come to the court of law. It may be 3 months by that, and the trial will take some 2 or 3 or 4 more months. Remember, the interest will keep on growing, keep on growing, keep on growing, until the date the court says to the mortgagee, what is your money? What is your claims? Is it okay? Or whether the mortgager is supposed to give more to you, etc., etc. Then when both the parties says, yes, this is the amount of money, then that amount of money can be easily deposited in the court of law, and that amount of money the court can give easily to the mortgagee. Then up to that date, the interest will keep on growing, keep on growing. On that day, when the court says, yes, today I'm ready to give you the amount of money, okay, deposited by the mortgager. So go to the office of the sub-registrar, bring back the certificate of clearance of the mortgage, registration of the mortgage. Then the court will say, yes, Mr. Mortgagee, come on, you take the money. But then the court is going to calculate the interest up to that day. So with all the original amount of money, the interest rate will be calculated, will be added to the mortgage amount of money. So here 2 things as you must remember. One is, if the mortgager, the growth of interest will stop when the mortgager, before coming to the court of law, has taken the steps and shown the readiness to pay the money. Okay, on that day, the growth of interest will stop. Or if he has not taken any such steps out of the court, he has come directly to the court of law, and the court has taken time to calculate, to take all the procedures. Then finally, when it has decided to give the amount of money, then up to that date, the interest will grow and stop growing. And all the interest will be calculated, and that will be added to the original mortgage money and all the other expenses. Yeah, you tell me now, have you got it?
So what I want to ask, that the amount which will be calculated, that should be given by the mortgager to the mortgagee.
You are right.
And after that, the original property will be given back to the mortgager. For example, we do in bank, we first submit the security. Then when we will pay the amount of loan, including the interest to the bank, our property will be released. Is it like that only, sir?
Yes, you are right.
Yes.
You are
Now
right. Okay. So, see, in the exam, you have to be careful. If they ask you section 84, cessation of interest, you have to write section 83, section 60, section 58A. Only then you will get full marks. Okay. Otherwise,
Yes, sir.
they don't give the marks in the, especially law subjects, the teachers are not that broad-minded in giving the marks. So all these points you have to mention, then you will definitely get the marks. Okay. So far what we have understood, 81, 82, 83, and 84. Okay. Now in the textbook, section 85 to 90 has been repealed. It is not there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 85 to 90 need not be read for the exam. It has been repealed.
Yes, sir.
Then we will go to another important section, that is section 91. See, 91, 92, 93, and 94. There are 4 sections. They are interrelated and very, very important, very confusing. And it will just give you the pricks to your brain. Okay. So dry injection it is going to give into your brain. Section 91, 92, 93, 94. But it's very few sections in TP. So you have to practice. You have to remember the sections. Okay. Now, one of you, come on, read. Section 91.
So section 91 says person who may sue for redemption beside the mortgager, any of the following person may redeem or institute a suit for redemption of the property, namely a person who has an interest in or charge upon the property, mortgaged or in upon the right of redeem the same, tenant, any surety, any creditor of the mortgager who has in a suit for the administration of his estate obtained a decree of sale of the mortgage property.
Okay. What you have understood by this?
Sir, it means apart from the real owner, like the real mortgager, these are the person who have also have right to sue for redemption on behalf of the mortgager. So these persons will be any person who has interest in that property, or who has given in charge of the property. For example, it can be a legal person also, or it can be your legal heirs also. Then tenants who are staying in that property, or any of the surety of the mortgager, or any creditors like that.
Okay, very good. Lamin, have you understood?
Yes, sir. But I didn't got this B point, sir. Any surety means like who is the person who is called as surety?
Don't worry. Now, section 91, they will simply ask, can any person other than the mortgager sue for redemption?
Yes.
Can any person other than the mortgager sue for redemption? A very, very question which we cannot easily understand. If you want to understand this section, you must take a white paper and just write clearly like this. You have white paper with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Karta, wife, brother, son, daughter. Okay. Now, I could not do, I'm not an expert in computer. I could not write the figure, ma. Okay, Levin, I could not write the figure. Now you do one thing. You follow my instruction. You
Yes, sir.
flower bracket all these persons. Put a flower bracket. Can you write in the paper?
Sir, can we have to write in the same line or the way you have written?
Yeah. No. First you write this one. Karta, wife, brother,
In
son,
horizontal
daughter.
order only, no, sir?
Okay, yeah, same order. Now you see the cursor here. Now you write a flower bracket here.
Okay.
Can you see the cursor?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we got.
Yeah, you write a flower bracket. Write beautifully. Lemon. No teacher will, no student will analyze this. So I want you to analyze. Okay, put a flower bracket here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now look at this cursor. You wrote the flower bracket here, and here is the flower. Okay, look at that.
Yes, sir.
There you write in
Brother.
capital letter. Yeah, after the flower bracket, there you write in capital letter, Karta.
Yes, sir.
Okay, put a beautiful line, a dash, a hyphen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now write some land, maybe an agricultural land. Agricultural land. Right. Now, let me explain this. If you remember this figure, take all this one. Now here you write surety. Then you write M1, 1993.
Sir, near Karta only we will write.
No, Karta is here, ma. Here.
Yeah.
After Karta, you put a hyphen here. Okay.
Land written.
Yeah. And then what all I have written here, you write.
Okay, so land will be in between only. Now surety will be up and tenant will be down.
Yeah. Tenant will be down.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll read. You just check yourself. Karta, wife, brother, son, daughter, flower bracket, Karta, hyphen, surety, M1, 1993, rupees 6 lakh, 6 year. Land, M2, 1995, rupees 5 lakh, 6 year. Tenant, M3, 1997, rupees 4 lakh, 6 year. Now this is a story. We have to, what you have written here, this is like a story. Okay. Now read the story here. Come on, read.
Lavin, you are reading or I should read?
Okay, I'll read. Let us consider a Hindu joint family. It consisted of Karta, his wife, brother, father, son, daughter. They are the owners of an agricultural land. They have leased to a tenant for cultivation. So basically, they are having a agricultural land which they have given on lease to a tenant for cultivation purpose. Then the family raised the first mortgage to M1 for 6 lakh rupees. So, okay, first mortgager, that's M1, for 6 years in the year 1993, for which there was a surety. The family raised second mortgage on the same property to M2 for rupees 5 lakhs for 6 years. Finally, the family raised a third mortgage to M3 for rupees 4 lakhs for 6 years. So firstly 6 lakh rupees for 6 years, then 5 lakhs rupees for next 6 years, then 4 lakhs rupees for third term period of 6 years. Then who may sue for redemption other than mortgager? In this illustration, Karta is the mortgager. Other than the Karta, can anyone exercise the right of redemption?
Now, have you understood the story now?
Yes, sir.
If you keep the story in your brain, you can answer section 91, 92, 93, and 94.
Sir,
None
is
of
it
the
like,
textbook.
marshalling only. The example was kind of marshalling only.
Marshalling only. Okay. So let us understand. Right? Now look at the figure. So there is a joint family. And the joint family means it's ancestral property they are enjoying. And that family consisted of a Karta, his wife, his brother, his son, and a daughter. So totally there are 5 members. They are the joint owners of properties. Okay. Now this 5 members, they are not authorized to deal the property. Only that Karta is having the authority to deal with the joint property. Now this Karta has mortgaged a land belonging to the family on 3 different occasions for 3 different people. Karta has mortgaged the joint family property to 3 different persons in 3 different periods. The first mortgage Mr. Karta has done is to Mr. M1 in the year 1993 for a loan of rupees 6 lakh for a period of 6 years. When this money is raised, there was a surety, we'll call him as yes. Mr. Surety, yes, and the mortgager said, see, you have faith in me, otherwise my surety is going to repay the money. Mr. M1, the one who has given the loan, he has accepted the guarantee of the surety. So in this first transaction, Karta, there is a surety, and the mortgagee, prior mortgagee, M1. On this land, agricultural land, there is a poor farmer who is cultivating the land. He is sharing the food grains with the family, with the Karta. So, tenant is related to the land. Surety, Mr. Yes, he has agreed to be the guarantee for the loan. Just 2 years have passed. Same Karta has made one more loan to another person, Mr. M2, for 5 lakhs of rupees for a period of 6 years. So we call him as the second mortgagee. Then same Karta has raised another loan to Mr. M3 in the year 1997 for a period of 4 lakhs for 4 lakhs rupees for 6 years. So M3, we are going to call him as the third mortgagee. Now let us look at the people here who are related to this transaction. There are 5 family members. There is a surety. There is a tenant. There is the first mortgagee. There is the second mortgagee. There is the third mortgagee. Now section 91 says, persons who may sue for redemption. That means when the mortgager fails to repay the mortgage money, when the mortgager fails to repay the mortgage money, fails to collect back the property and the document, who are the other persons who can exercise the right of redemption?
Like
So
getting
here-
back the property.
Yeah, getting back the property, clearing the first loan amount. Okay? It's all complicated, really. It's all complicated. So, Section 91 say there are three kinds of persons. What are those? Who are those? Any person who is having any interest, any kind of relationship with the property in question, such persons is having the right of redemption. Now I have given you tenant. Tenant is earning the money, making his livelihood by utilizing that land. He is growing food grain. He is sharing the percentage with the mortgager. So he has to protect his interest. He don't want to lose his property. If the property is there, he can earn more and more, more and more. So Section 91 says, if the mortgager could not exercise the right of redemption, then any person who is having any kind of relationship with the property is having the right of redemption. That means the tenant is having the right of redemption. He can clear the first mortgage, M1. Okay? Now, consider tenant is very poor. He don't have the money. He can't clear. Then who is the other person who is having the right to clear the mortgage, who can redeem the mortgage? Now look at this line of 5 members. Karta, we consider him as the mortgager. Okay, keep him aside. You know, Karta's wife, in her individual capacity, Karta's wife, in her individual capacity, she is rich. She is having the financial stability, ability. Now the question here is, can the wife of the Karta, can he clear the first mortgage money? Can he redeem the first mortgage? Yes. That wife of Karta, she is having interest in the property. She has the right of redemption. See, in the exam, write one by one, slowly, carefully you write. First you write, okay, the tenant. Okay, write some 3 sentences. Below that you come down, right? You must write this figure, then you explain. The wife of Karta, in her individual capacity, she can redeem the mortgage. Now in the same sense, you think which are the other person in their individual capacity can redeem the property. Apply your mind. Why?
So can you put that question again?
See, any person who is having any interest in the property is having the right of redemption. A tenant is having the right of redemption because he is related to the property. In the same sense, the wife of Karta, in her individual capacity, okay, in her individual capacity, she is also having the right of redemption. So tenant can redeem the property. The wife of Karta can redeem the property. In the same sense, explain to me any other person, the list of any other person who can exercise the right of redemption.
Sir, it can be surety also, sir.
Very good, very good. So next point you have to write surety. Who is a surety? Tell me.
Sir, as per my understanding, surety is a person, like I'll just say in the layman, like he will have that a surety that in case if the karta is unable to pay, or the real mortgager is unable to pay, so that he can also pay in his behalf and he can later collect the same
The
amount from the
one who gives
mortgage.
the guarantee.
Very good. Good, good, very good. Both are correct. Okay, both are correct.
Yes, sir.
So in the next point you can write surety, the person who has agreed to be the guarantor for the payment of loan back to the Mr. M1. When Karta, the mortgagee, fails to pay back the money after the expiry of the time, then surety, whomsoever they may be, they also have the right of redemption because they have the duty to clear the loan. Okay? And now, come on, analyze your mind, apply your mind, and write so many other names.
So all of these mentioned names like wife, brother, son, and daughter can be the persons can claim redemption. If I'm not
Yes, Levin. So in the exam, you write separately. Okay, separately. You put the side heading, brother of Karta. Write
Sir,
three
brother of
sentences.
karta or acha, son of karta?
Brother
Both are
of
different. No.
Karta.
And
Okay.
sir, what is there any specific order defined?
No order. See, Levin, why I am giving you this kind of illustration is you can create your own illustrations. And you must be in a position to explain. That's all. You can change this order. You can add up uncle, auntie, chacha, batiji. So many people you can add up. Okay. So all these persons, but in the exam, write separately. Brother of Karta, in his individual capacity, is having the right of redemption.
Sir,
When
what if two
Karta
different person comes front in the same time for claiming redemption? So who will get the priority?
Anybody. There is no, that has not been mentioned here because when clearing the money, nobody will come forward. Right? So, 2020 question for 1882 people. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In the same sense, if the son is individually, if he is financially strong, and the son can also clear the loan, he is having the right of redemption. Even the daughter, in her individual capacity, is having the right of redemption. Now, think in another man also. Now look at the figure. What about this M2? Apply your mind, Levin, Mansik, Shruti, come on, apply your mind. Can M2 exercise the right of redemption against M1 or not? Consider all these persons failed to pay the money. All these persons, they don't have that money. Now the second mortgagee, M2, does he exercise the right of redemption in clearing the first loan of M1?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So, when the wife, brother, son, daughter, tenant, surety fails to exercise the right of redemption, then comes that is a subsequent mortgagee, Mr. M2. He can exercise the right of redemption. Who is the last person then?
M3.
M3. Consider M2 could not repay the M1's loan. Can Mr. M3 exercise the right of redemption? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So what you have write in the exam, what you have to write? According to section 91, all these persons, who are they? The family members of the Karta, wife, brother, son, daughter, or the tenant, or the surety, or the second mortgagee M2 or the third mortgagee M3. All these persons have the right of redemption. Hope I just make you to understand this one, right? Now let us go to the next section, subrogation. Subrogation means substitution. Look at that section. Subrogation, section 92, means substitution. One person redeeming the mortgage occupies the place of the mortgagee.
Sir,
Yes, ma.
I have one little doubt in the earlier section, that is 91.
Ah.
It says that these person which we discussed, like all the karta, wife, brother, son, daughter, surety and tenant, like they have right of redemption.
Ah.
What if someone purposefully doesn't want to help redeeming that property? For example, if surety fails,
Ah.
and if the karta doesn't, who was the second was the
Anyone, no problem. Anyone.
yeah. So if, for example, surety is unable to pay, or the last option, for example, tenant, he is the only one who is in the power of redemption, and but he doesn't want to exercise the same. So
Okay.
can all the other person can go and, like, can bring this matter in front of the court against that one person who can redeem?
No. This section does not give that power. This section wants to tell you, other than that mortgager, who can exercise the right of redemption. That's all. And it does not give any other rights to any other persons. You cannot compel anyone to redeem. No, that right is not available. Okay? Yeah. Now, subrogation means when one person clears one of the loan, he will go and occupy the place of that mortgagee. He will gain all the rights, all the liabilities, duties of that mortgagee. So this is called subrogation. Very trickily, they will ask you in the exam. See these words. What is conventional subrogation? Or they may ask you, what is legal subrogation? Remember. These words you remember. What is conventional subrogation? What is legal subrogation? Don't worry when they ask you such questions, you have to explain section 91 completely. Then you have to explain this word convention. What is the meaning of convention? What is the meaning of convention?
Converting.
No, you are a law student, all of you. Convention. What is convention? Very simple, all of you know.
Either a way in which something is usually done, or otherwise any kind of agreement between states.
Very good, very good. That is the answer. Simply the word agreement or contract. Convention means, okay, it's an agreement or a contract. Now, conventional subrogation means, I told you that surety. Mr. Yes became the surety in the first loan with Mr. M1, and he has agreed. He has told Mr. M1, Mr. M1, Karta is a very good person. He is going to clear your loan within 6 years. If Karta does not pay the money, I take the personal guarantee. I am going to repay the money from my purse. So, Mr. Surety has agreed personally to clear that loan. Now consider when Karta has failed to repay the money to Mr. M1. M1 has filed a case against the surety saying, come on, you pay me that money. Or Mr. Surety, when he came and requested Karta, Karta ji, aap to pay to kar sakte ho? And Karta says, no, I am not in position to pay. Then the surety, voluntarily, he cleared 6 lakhs of rupees to Mr. M1. Surety has been subrogated to the place of Mr. M1. This is called conventional subrogation. This is called substitution of the surety to the place of Mr. M1. This is called conventional subrogation. Is there any doubt in this?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, surety has agreed. There is a convention, there is a contract, there is an agreement. Now he is bound by the contract. When he clears that loan, he will come and occupies the place of Mr. M1. Okay? Right. Now we will go to the second one. That is legal subrogation. What is this legal subrogation? Those persons who are related to the property,
Legally.
those persons who are related to the property, they are having lawful rights in that property. They are connected lawfully. Then such persons can also exercise the right of redemption. The tenant or the subsequent mortgagees or the family members of the joint family in their individual capacity, they are related. They are connected to the property. So these people can also clear or exercise the right of redemption. So when they, having lawful rights on the property, when they clear the mortgage, yes, they all comes under legal subrogation. For example, in this illustration, consider Mr. M2, the second mortgagee. He comes forward and clears the first mortgage of M1. Now Mr. M2 comes and occupies all the rights, all the liabilities, all the place of Mr. M1. Is it not? Is it not? Is it true or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, consider M3 is also a financially sound. He says, no, I'm going to clear this loan. Don't worry. So M3 has cleared the first loan. M3 has been substituted to the place of M1. This is legal subrogation. Or consider the tenant who is related to the property. He cleared the first loan. So tenant has been subrogated, substituted to the place of M1. This is a legal subrogation. Or daughter of Karta in her individual capacity, she has cleared M1's loan. So daughter has been substituted to the place of M1. This is legal subrogation. Son in his individual capacity cleared the loan of M1. He is called legally substituted. Legal subrogation. Can you write this much? Is it very tough?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, Section 93, prohibition of taking. See, all you have to read all the 4 sections together. Otherwise, it's very dry, very confusing. Okay, we will sit for some more time. We will finish this. Now, what is this tacking? Now you tell me, this figure you remember, there are 3 loans to 3 different persons. M1, M2, M3. Consider none of them have exercised the right of redemption, but M3 has exercised the right of redemption. M3 has exercised the right of redemption. So M3 has come and occupied the place of M1. Slowly you understand, it is a little confusing and little boring also. M3 has cleared the loan of M1. Now M3 have come and occupied the place of M1. Easy? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Unmute, all of you, unmute and tell me, because only 3 of you are there. Unmute and tell me. Have you understood this much?
Yes,
M3
Yes, sir.
cleared the loan of M1, comes and occupies the place of M1. Now the question is, consider these people, the joint family, the tenant, surety, they have not cleared the loan. They are not in a position to give the loan, clear the loan. Now you tell me, who is having the first priority to get back the money? How much he is having the right to get back the money? Come on, unmute all of you. Answer. In
How
first
much
place, who is having the right to clear the money under the priority? Get back the money. By selling that property, first person to get back the money.
Surety says.
Who?
Sir, the first person who has to process for redemption is none other than surety. Because
No,
he
forget
is
it, forget it, ma, forget it. See, all these persons don't have any money. All these persons don't have any money. Now, M3 paid the money of M1, came and occupied the place of M1. Right, ma?
Yes, sir.
M3 paid the loan of M1, comes and occupies the place of M1. Now the question to you, all of you, is, all these persons failed to clear the loan. All these persons. Now, these 3 loans have to be cleared. M1, M2, M3. These 3 loans have to be cleared. They will go to the court of law. Now that you have to tell me, who is having the first priority to get back the money, how much he is having the right to get back the money. Can you analyze? Apply your brain and tell me.
Sir, M3 should get the money first.
How
Because
much?
all the amount which is paying on the behalf of surety. Sir, your voice is breaking. Sir. Hello?
Hello, ma. Tell me, ma.
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
Hello?
Now we can hear. Yes, sir, now it is clear.
No. Okay.
Yes, sir, now
Yeah,
it is clear.
Yeah, come on. Okay, ma. Tell me. This is the brain trickling question and analysis. So in the first priority, who is having the right to collect money? How much money he can collect?
Sir, is it the M3 only? He will collect the money first.
Very good. Very good. How much money he can collect?
Sir, I think he can collect back the amount of 2 lakh because if I'm not sure, because 4 lakh anyways he was holding that amount, and as the surety was unable to pay 6 lakh, so when we will calculate the balance amount, it will come to 2 lakh.
Levin, Shruti?
Yes, I also feel the same as Mansi said.
Okay, Shruti ji?
Because here I think 2 lakh is the extra amount what he is paying on behalf of surety. Because anyways, he will be liable to pay 4 lakhs.
See, analyze it. What is the first loan amount?
6 lakh,
6 lakh. What is the second loan amount?
5 lakh,
5 lakh. What is the third loan amount?
9 lakhs.
No. Third loan amount.
Sorry, 4 lakh, 4 lakh.
4 lakh. Okay. Now, who is having the priority to get back the money? What amount of money he can get back?
M3 4 lakh.
Mr. M3 has cleared the first loan. How much he has cleared? 6 lakhs of rupees he has cleared. M3 has been subrogated to the place of M1. Now M1 is not here. Here is M3. Now you have to analyze how much money he has the right to get back in the first priority.
Is it 6 lakh only, sir?
It is 6 lakh because 6 lakh is the amount of Mr. M1 that has been cleared. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now the question to you is, what is prohibition of tacking? Can Mr. M3 climb 6 lakhs plus 4 lakhs in the priority or not?
Sir, I think no, he can't claim his 4 lakh again.
Very good. Why?
He can only claim 6 lakh because it is how to say, like it is in respect of his own security, that 4 lakh amount. So that amount he will not get.
Why?
Because that amount is in his own respect, own security.
What is the position of that amount? First place, second place, or third place?
Sir, I think it is the third intermediate mortgage. That's
third place, is it
third
not?
place.
So,
Yes,
tacking means Mr. M3, you have come and occupied the position of M1. There, you will only exercise the rights and liabilities of M1, that is 6 lakhs of rupees.
and not his own mortgage.
You should not bring your 4 lakhs rupees to the first place. No, because above you, there is Mr. M2. First, when you take back 6 lakhs of rupees, which was supposed to be paid to, which you paid to M1, after your collection of 6 lakh, then comes the second person, M2.
Yes, sir.
So M2 is having the right to collect back 5 lakhs of rupees. Only after the clearance of second loan,
M2.
you, Mr. M3, you have the right to get back your loan of rupees 4 lakhs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means your third position cannot be exercised in the first position against the second mortgagee. This is called prohibition of tacking. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Got it? Lavin, got it?
Yes, sir.
Shruti ji? Okay. Now, in the exam, they will ask you one more question. And they will say, Here, hope you follow this. This section explains the rule of redeem up and foreclose down. They will ask you only these words. When they ask you these words, you have to write all section 91, 92, 93, and this section 94. Now in the side heading, if you have the paper, you write up, redeem up. Kindly write up in your
So
paper.
this is for section 94.
94 ma. Okay. This point is explained in section 94, but you have to mention all the 3 sections. Only then you will get the marks. Have you written down side heading?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us understand this word redeem up by looking at this figure. Redeem means redemption. Okay, redemption. Consider there are 3 mortgages, M1, M2, M3. First mortgage period came to an end. First mortgage period came to an end. Nobody could pay the money. None of these people. Now the question is, carefully you analyze, can Mr. M2 has the right of redemption of M1? Can Mr. M2 come and clear the loan of M1? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now look at the cursor here. M2 is in the upward direction. He can go and clear M1. M2 redeem up M1. Right? Now consider M3. M3 is also having the right of redemption. He is having the right to clear the loan of M1. Or consider M3 is also having the right to clear the loan of M2. In which direction? Which direction? Upward direction or not? M2 can clear M1, M3 can clear M2, M3 can clear M1. In which direction? Upward or downward?
Upward, sir.
Upward. This is called redeem up. Okay? Just you underline that word. Redeem up, they will ask you, means you have to write this figure and explain. M2 is having the right of redemption in the upward direction. M3 is also having the right of redemption in the upward direction. Right? Understood?
Sir.
Yeah. Now you will understand foreclose. The right to foreclosure. Section, which section you tell me? Right to foreclosure, which section I have taught you?
Sir, 67.
67 to 77 explains the right and liabilities of the mortgagee. 67 explains right to foreclosure or right of foreclosure. Can Levin explain the right to foreclosure?
Yes, sir. It is the right available to mortgagee. So, as the entire time period of mortgage expires, it is complete, and if the mortgager does not returns the debt amount to mortgagee, so mortgagee can approach to the court by this particular section, and by this the mortgagee can request the court to please get me my amount of mortgagee as the term period of its mortgage has been completed, and the other person who is bound to do payment, he is not doing so. So this secures the mortgagee.
Okay, so what is foreclosure? I'll just recollect. Foreclosure under section 67 is the right of the mortgagee. What is that right? Right to keep away the mortgager from claiming the property. He can go to the court of law after the expiry of the mortgage period and he can request the court, Your Honor, keep away the mortgager. He has not paid my money back. Don't allow him to come near the property. Don't allow him to climb the property. Keep him away. This is called as right to foreclosure. Now the question to you, all of you, is this. Consider M1, he has the right to foreclosure. None of them has paid the money. So M1 is having the right to come to the court of law under section 67 and he can request the honorable court, Your Honor, keep away all the surety, all the tenant, all the karta, his family members from claiming this property. That is one side. He is also having the right to exercise the right of foreclosure against the subsequent mortgagees. He can tell the court, Your Honor, keep away M2 from claiming this property. So it is in the downward direction. M1 is also having the right to request the court to keep M3, the third mortgagee, from claiming this property. This is called foreclose down. In the same sense, M2 is having the right to exercise the right to foreclosure against M3. This is in the downward direction. That means when the first mortgagee could not get back his money, he can exercise the right to foreclosure against all the subsequent mortgagees. Mortgagees number 2, mortgagee number 3, mortgagee number 4, like that. It is in the downward direction. This is called foreclose down. So in the exam, they will ask you redeem up and foreclose down. Okay, so downward direction. M1, it can prevent M2. M1 can prevent M3. In the same sense, M2 can prevent M3 from claiming the property. Right to foreclosure in the downward direction. Right of redemption in the upward direction. Is there any questions? Please ask me if you have any doubt.
No, sir.
Okay, so this is section 94. I will send my writings to you. Okay, so this much is enough. Now we will go to the next topic. Okay, so be free to ask questions so that I must enter, the knowledge must enter your brain. Otherwise, you should not waste your time and money. Okay, right? Can we close now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Good night. Take care.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. Thanks a lot. Yes, Mr. Mansi.